Welcome to Carriage House Conversations. I'm here with Keith Cremer of KC Sound. This is going to be a little difficult interview for me because my joy in life is teasing Keith Cremer when he comes. I would say it's similar to like a brother-sister relationship when we get on each other and
Older sister, younger brother.
see what I mean. I think you're older than I am.
51?
Okay,
51.
he might be lying. Anyway, Keith is fortunate enough to be one of our preferred vendors. He counts himself very lucky in that we allow him to be one of our preferred
Very lucky.
vendors.
And I tell my customers all the time, I said, if I could come here every week, it's 5 miles from my house, and it's so easy to get here and easy to work with you and your staff. You always make me feel welcome. So
Very accommodating. Hey, can I get in Friday night to set up? And I say, yep, anytime.
how early can I get in Saturday morning? Do you have a rehearsal the night before? It's easy.
Yeah, we do what we can to help the vendors out too, to help them set up. But let's talk about Keith. This is your life.
Oh boy.
So, Keith is not a complete full-time DJ. Full-time, he is a teacher in the South Williams Sports School District. And this is like the third interview that I've mentioned the Mounties because I'm a graduate of the Southside School District. Maybe that's why I can't remember how old
I was not her teacher then. I haven't been around that long. No.
And that's why I graduated so well.
Yeah.
I mean, I was probably like 95th in my class. Anywho, Southside School District, what grade do you teach? How long have you been there? What do you teach?
Okay. Well, I've been in eighth grade science out of South Williamsport since 1998. So, 25 years now. I've been there half my life.
See, you are old.
Yeah, it just occurred to me. Half my life I've been
Yeah.
teaching there. Wow.
Are you going to wait till you're like 60-ish to retire? Gonna hang out?
I'm serving 3 to 8 more years.
Okay.
I turned 55 after the school year. I turned 55 in 3 years, and obviously I'll turn 60 in 8. So my son has 4 years of college after the senior year, and I couldn't imagine that I would go before he's done with college. So
Yeah.
at least 4 and maximum of 8, I would say.
Speaking of your kids, they often help Keith with setup and photo booth and stuff. McKenna, his daughter, is often along helping
I
with setup.
I could not do this without them. McKenna, she did a year at University of Pittsburgh, and then she decided she wanted to come back home. So now she's doing Southern New Hampshire University online, which is great for me because now I have a roadie with me. She, as you said, she runs the photo booth when we have the photo booth. When we don't have a photo booth working, she runs the social media. She takes pictures, helps me out with that, helps me with the loading and unloading, and she's just a great travel companion. So
Yeah,
shout out to McKenna Cremer.
yeah. You should run her
Love you,
along.
girl.
She's a cool kid. Yeah, I like it when she comes along too. She's got that great dry sense of humor, and she works well off of you. I
That's for
enjoy
sure.
her. Yeah. Um, I lost my train of thought with McKenna. See, I enjoy her so much. So, what else do you offer? You mentioned the photo booth, and you have a new photo booth this past year you introduced, and talk about your TVs that you got. You've come a long way in the past few years with the things that you've introduced. So, talk about some of the new things that you have to offer.
I would say like the COVID year really made a big impact on me there because business was really down that year, obviously for everybody. Whereas normally we're 30 to 40 weddings per year. That year, I think we were closer to 10 to 15, maybe 20 at the most. So I hadn't pictured myself DJing past my 50th birthday because I'm like, well, why would I want to be a 50-year-old wedding DJ? I couldn't imagine that. But then COVID, with a lot of people canceling and postponing to the next year or beyond, I'm like, well, I got to at least accommodate them. And then something inside just lit a spark in me again. I'm like, what? I have a renewed passion for doing this again. So I thought, well, I'm going to sink a little bit of capital into this. So I say it was beginning of last year, 2022, 21, 22. I bought all new equipment there, upgraded just everything about it, like the branding, how I present myself at the event, how I advertise, and then all the equipment. You had mentioned the photo booth. We now have TVs to offer. And the one wedding we did here, we did just kind of like a showcase of it. One center TV was just their animated monogram that had their names and their wedding date and a nice little like spark going around the TV the whole time. Another TV was dedicated for, I think it was the photo booth. So when McKenna was taking the pictures in the back, you would get a live feed so people on the dance floor could see who was getting their photo booth pictures. And then the photographer that we worked with, he was able to put together a slideshow on the spot during dinner of all the pictures he took before the ceremony, all the stuff he took during the ceremony and during the cocktail hour pictures, and he put that together in a nice slideshow. So we had photo booth, monogram, and then ceremony slideshow all right there, front and center, so people could see it while they're on the dance floor. It gave them a nice little perspective of like what happened throughout the day there, and I think it just added to the mood.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that was so amazing. How many photographers do you think are going to be willing to do that?
I don't know how easy it was,
Yeah, I don't know either.
but I know a lot of photographers also take engagement shoots, and that's something that the general guest list probably doesn't get to see outside of immediate family. So if you decide to go on location to a beach or a park, I know some of our photographers, they take them to the Rocky Mountains. Shout out to Emily and Kyle King. They have a lot of remote locations for the engagement sessions, and those would be a great idea to put like on the TV,
That's a good idea.
so people can see, wow, this is what they were like last year, 2 years ago when they got engaged, and look how how much they look different now that they're on their wedding day.
Yeah, that's a
Those are
great
great.
idea. Yeah, but even the photo booth things, it really keeps the people engaged with the photo booth too, because then it pops up there. So that's neat. And explain the photo booth, because it's not old school photo booth.
What the whole reason why I didn't have a photo booth up to this time, I always thought of a photo booth as a box, a big cube or rectangle, kind of like what you'd have at an amusement park. You go in there, you smile for 3 times, you wait, 2 minutes, and you get three pictures of yourself there. But I didn't want that. I wanted something that's more everybody could see it and it's like involved with the rest of the night. So we went to photoboothsupplycompany.com, and they have what's called an open air photo booth, and I'm sure a lot of people have something similar to that now. And it's basically controlled off an iPad, but you get to customize it however you want. You can choose whatever color LED rings you want. The main start plate is interactive. You choose whether you want GIFs. Is it GIFs or GIFs?
Hmm.
It's a GIF.
I think it's
Okay.
chips.
I think it's a GIF. You can choose a boomerang where it just keeps going back and forth. A video. Most people don't choose a video anymore because it takes too long. Or just a regular, one-shot photo. You approve it if you want. You can get a retake, and then you can either send it to your email or send it to your cell phone. Because the more we thought about doing actually printed picture strips, but the more I thought about it, I'm like, what do people actually do with their pictures now? They put them on Instagram. They put
Right.
them on Snapchat. They put it on TikTok. And the only place I ever see photo strips might be in a movie. You might see some people have it on their dashboard, or maybe like on a dressing room mirror, something like that, bathroom mirror, or in a dorm. So we thought, well, those strips are just going to get thrown away. So let's just eliminate that option and have it all digital. So we were doing a junior high dance the other night, and another DJ that comes here a lot, Dan Carpenter, DC Entertainment, his son was at the dance, and he was going through the photo booth quite a bit. So I was sending him pictures every time his son went through the photograph. And he's like, "How do you get that so quickly?" He's like, "We got to talk about this." And it's great because whoever rents the photo booth that night or the next day, they get a link to the online photo album, and they can see all the pictures
Oh, that's so
that their
fun.
guests took, and some of the stuff that they might not even remember, or they don't even remember seeing that particular guest, like grandma and grandpa. They didn't know they went to the photo booth, but there it is, and that's a memory they have to treasure. They can keep in their phone.
Yeah. Do you do uplighting also?
We do uplighting. Some venues and some times of the year, I wouldn't recommend uplighting. For instance, if you have a room that has a lot of character, like I would consider your venue to have a lot of character, just because you kept a lot of I would say the old school stuff of the barn. Like you have some plaster and stone inside the wall, and I don't think like a blue or a purple is going to look that good on it. And if we have it during any time from like mid June to mid August, sunset's what around here about 8:30.
Later.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so the uplighting really wouldn't have that good of effect for like the first 3 hours. You would only get the full effect for like final 2 hours of the evening. But if you have a room where it's very vanilla, very eggshell, maybe like a fire hall or something, this adds a lot of color and content and texture to the walls there. Some people choose like to complement their flowers, their linens, their bridesmaids' dresses. But on occasion, when we've done it here, people have gone with like an amber in the fall, or just like a white to brighten up the corners a little bit.
Mhm.
And then when the evening starts to get a little jiggy with it, when we start the open dancing, That's when we would set the lights to kind of like sound reactive, and you can get that like
okay.
nightclub feel there.
Yeah.
But we don't want to do that obviously during dinner or during the slow songs.
You can try it.
Yeah.
Dinner.
I mean, yeah, it might make the food even tastier than it already is.
It's hard enough to get people to listen to go to release the tables,
Yeah.
let alone having interactive lights going on.
That's for sure.
So, how many weddings a year do you typically do? How many a weekend do you do?
Well, obviously, in Central PA, this is not our busy season.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably why we're talking right now.
Yeah. Gotta fill the time.
Yeah, December through February, maybe March is really slow because it takes out the possibility of the outdoor wedding. So wedding season for me usually starts in April and usually ends in the end of October, early November. We'll get the occasional indoor November, December, January weddings, but it's not common. So right now, I would say outside of the COVID year, we've kind of held steady at around 30 to 40, maybe an average of about 35 per year. Which, if you think about it, there's 52 weekends, and I'm DJing 35 of them. It's enough.
Right. I know. I think that too. And we do 40 to 45 weddings a year, and I'm like, but there's 52 weekends in a year. And then I say to myself, but they don't start until April or May, and then they're done really end of November. So you're really smushing all of those in.
You're getting some Friday, Saturdays, some Saturday, Sundays.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's really like October's insane, September's insane.
Yeah.
So how early should someone reserve your services?
I know the first thing they want to do is they always want to make sure wherever they're having the reception. That's got to be the first one, because you can get your DJ, your photographer, and your flowers, but if you decide to book your venue last, then you're changing you're changing your date for all those vendors that you just booked. So you got to get the venue first. Make sure wherever you're having your ceremony, if you're doing traditional church, make sure they're available. But you got to get the venue first. Then I would say get your photographer and your DJ next in either order, just because a photographer and a DJ, they're not going to shoot 2 weddings in one day. So when you book them, that's the only thing they're going to do that day. A cake, flowers, they might have 3 or 4 weddings in one day, so they might be a little more flexible. But your DJ and your photographers, they only take 1 gig per day, so you got to get them. So I would say, I mean, I have December 2024 weddings already, so I would say a year and a half to 2 years. But on the same token, right before I got here, I just got an email for a late September 2023 wedding, which is 7 months away, and I was already booked for that. So, September and October, like you said, around here, Central PA, they love their fall weddings, and you got to get them at least a year in advance, I would say.
Yeah, that's a fact. Yeah, I got a call last night for September, October this year, and we might be able to squeeze it in too. One of the things that I really like about you, and I hate to tell them anything I like about it. Very professional, and that's another reason that you're on our preferred list, is because you're so professional. I will get the itinerary for the week's wedding on Tuesday, not Monday, not Sunday, not Wednesday, Tuesday. 1 week, jokingly, I emailed him and it was on Monday, and I said, so where's my itinerary for this week? I got this whole explanation that it will come on Tuesday, every Tuesday. So I'll get a very nice itinerary for the week with the wedding, all of the information, all of the people involved, if there's a planner, the baker, anybody, all of the bridesmaids. And the other thing I like that you do is anybody that you're going to announce at the wedding. I like that.
Yeah.
You have it phonetically spelled out there. And I read it. Every time you do that, I sound it out. And I'm like, oh, okay. Even if it's like an easier name, I still do that. Because how many times have you been at a wedding and you know that person and they totally mess up that name?
Yeah.
Totally mess up that name. So that's such a good thing that you do.
One thing I would say, like you said, I'm a teacher, I'm a basketball referee, I'm a husband, I'm a dad, and also a wedding DJ. And the one thing that every one of those depend on is communication. Mm-hmm. So I don't know why I started the Tuesday sending out. I don't know why I didn't do it on Monday or Sunday or Wednesday, but I just decided to go on Tuesday. And the most successful weddings, don't happen by chance. There's all these plans that go in behind the scenes there. And if you and I and the photographer and the officiant and the cake person, if we're all on the same page, it's just so much easier. But if nobody talked to anybody and nobody knew what each other person was doing and didn't know what timeline we were going on, it would just be chaos and it would just be absolutely horrible for the bride. Now I know a lot of your brides, they don't use a wedding planner,
Right.
and that's kind of where the communication even goes a lot more. Because when you have the wedding planner, they take it upon themselves. They're going to email you months ahead of time. They're going to email me, and they're going to spot check in with us every so often. But when there's no wedding planner, it's basically on the vendors to communicate with each other. So I like to make sure ahead of time that when I'm meeting with the bride and groom for the final time, which is usually like 2 weeks beforehand, where I'll let them listen to the song. What song you guys want to have your first dance to? Well, here's the version that I found that I think that you're looking for. Let me know if this is the exact same one. Because there's radio edits, there's acoustic versions, there's duet versions. And I don't want that look on their face when I'm playing their first dance song and they turn around and, oh my gosh, that's not our song. No, there's not going to be anything that's left to chance. There's no possible bad reactions here. We go over the pronunciation of everybody in the bridal party. As we get farther east into the Scranton Wilkes-Barre area, there's some Polish names,
Yeah.
and there's a couple
We get a lot of those.
C's and Z's in there that I would not even, my wildest imagination would not have guessed it's pronounced like that. So I'll try and pronounce it one way, and then the bride and groom will correct me, and then I'll ask them to say it slowly. And then, like you said, I'll spell it phonetically on the screen, like, oh yeah, just like that. And so that way, when I'm introducing them, it's not like I'm trying to make up a pronunciation on the fly. I've practiced it over and over again. I've checked with that actual bridesmaid and groomsman. Is that how you pronounce it? I'm like, oh my gosh, nobody ever pronounced that correctly. Like, thank you, bride and groom, for that. So there's no accidents that are going to happen if we've done our job. If we've gone over the timeline, you're like, yeah, this is when they're coming in from cocktail hour. This is when they're introduced because this is when dinner is going to be served. It just makes it that much easier. If you're doing cocktails the whole night, maybe that's not as important. But when you're doing a cooked red meat cooked to order, you can't just let that sit for another half hour.
Right.
It's not going to taste the same, and then it looks bad on you, and it looks bad for the bride and groom too. So that timeline it's pretty important when we get together and we collaborate that, and that's why I send it out to all the vendors. And if anybody has issue with it, hey, golden hour outside the sunset, that's not flexible. If they want to take them out for
Right.
sunset pictures, they got to do that at a certain time. I can always push their first dance back to whatever time they want. We can always cut the cake later. But certain things like that have no flexibility in time, that needs to be communicated ahead of time. So that's why I like to provide that timeline.
Yeah, and the timeline's important to us because of the way we cook our food. Everything is so fresh here. I always say we cook it like you cook food at home. It's so fresh here. I recently, last year, I had a wedding that was a half hour off. They were over here, like wedding was supposed to be at 4:30. They were still over here taking pictures. And I came over and I said, you realize you're like at 4:30 now? And the photographer said, yep. Like, it's just not a care in the world. And I said, okay. I mean, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah. It's not like you're making spaghetti.
No, not at all. But communication and, I think I showed you before the information that I send out to all of the vendors that haven't been here before.
Mhm.
I don't send it to you because you come all the time, but for vendors who haven't been here before, I send them. And DJs, my list is like this because of the different areas that they could be set up. If you need to bring, 50 yards of extension cord, if you're not battery operated or whatever in the field, or extension cord for around, just all the information I send. But when a DJ shows up that hasn't been here before and says, I need a table, I need a linen, and I'm like, so you did not read my email that I sent you with all of that information. If they would just keep the communication open, read the emails that I send, I would have a table prepared for you. I would have a linen on it. You would have all the extension cords. So communication is so important with all of us, for sure.
It's funny that you mentioned that extension cords. I actually upgraded my outdoor ceremony equipment because of your venue.
Yeah.
The first time I was here, I think I ran 50 to 60 feet of extension cords out by your garage there. And then you guys had that little portable generator, that Honda generator. And I'm like, wow, that thing's really neat. I should get something like that. And then I started pricing the generators when I found these smaller portable battery packs for like $300, and my entire ceremony system can run on that battery pack, probably for about 3 or 4 different ceremonies.
Oh wow!
So, and that makes no sound whatsoever. It charges overnight, and so that I take that for sometimes for the outdoor ceremony We could have it on the beach. We could have it by the riverfront there, all because I didn't want to run 50 feet of extension cords
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's definitely helped out.
Yeah, I've had lots of people say, so where is the electric in the field? Did you look out there? It's a field. No electric.
No.
So now we'll go to the fun part. These little questions that you can answer. Don't cheat. Don't look.
Oh, they're totally random?
Yeah, totally
Okay.
random.
Me first?
They're all for you. Do you need glasses?
No, I can hear.
All right, I'll help you.
Who is your go-to band or artist when you can't decide on something to listen to?
Yeah, what do you like to listen
So-
to?
To listen to, I would definitely go with Aerosmith.
Okay.
I'm big-time Aerosmith fan.
Have you seen them in concert?
No,
I
and
have.
I'm going to bring McKenna into the story here.
Okay.
3 years ago, so this is pre-COVID, I think it was. They were playing in Maryland, and my brother and his family were coming over to visit us the next day around noon. So we would have had to drive to Maryland for a 8 or 9 o'clock concert, and then come back the next morning to host my brother's family. And I was going to take my daughter. I was like, this is Aerosmith. Because one of the things we've talked about, her and I, is that when she does get married, that her first dance is going to be "I Don't Want to Miss a Thing" by Aerosmith from the movie Armageddon. Like, we talked about it, and she says, like, cry like a little bitch during that song, which I do. It's the only time I get emotional is when I think about Father of the Bride dances there. So we were going to go see them, and she's like, nah, she's like, I just want to be fully awake when my uncle gets here the next day. I'm like, all right, we're not going to see it. And she'll say, that's the one regret I have not doing with you is we didn't get to go to that Aerosmith concert. I mean, they have a residency in Las Vegas now, but it's a little bit easier to drive to Maryland than it is to fly to Vegas. When did you see them?
I saw them, let's say, should I say the year?
I'm sure it's the 70s. No?
No.
No.
My mom wouldn't let me leave the house then in the 70s. I'll say 88.
Okay.
And I was front row.
Where at?
Like Montage Mountain maybe, and it
Oh
was
my
like
gosh.
open seating, so you're like, we were
Mhm.
probably drinking Bartles and James coolers.
Where's
Shout out to Jenny Borges. We ran to get right up front, and I have a picture of him like in my face like this. I'll bring it in next time and show you.
Nice. I would have that on my
I
front
know. I
page
don't
every
know why
time.
I don't have it like framed or out anywhere.
I tried to explain to McKenna like the importance of the song "Walk This Way,"
Mhm.
and she'll always say, "It broke down walls." I'm like the video in 1986. I'm like, you have no idea. I said you have Aerosmith, who was like the kings of rock, old school rock, and then you have Run DMC, which was the new wave rap. And I said the rock and rap world, they didn't talk to each other, they didn't get along.
Yeah.
And then this video on MTV, in the video shows Steven Tyler actually knocking down the wall with his mic stand. I said that's actually literally and metaphorically them knocking down the walls of rock and rap, being separate entities.
Well, I have lots to talk to McKenna about.
Oh my
next
gosh, yeah.
time.
It's just like, I know, Dad. They knock down walls.
I love that kid. Keep going.
Oh, shouldn't you take one?
No, they're all for you.
Oh my gosh, okay. Oh, let's go with one here. Do you have any pet peeves? What are they? Photographers that don't stick to timelines.
8th grade science students.
No, for the most part, I mean, I love what I do for that. Yeah. I'll tell you what's fun. My last 2 weddings this year are both former students.
Oh wow,
So,
that's awesome.
and the one
Is
student,
one here?
I'm not sure. I don't have my phone with
Because
me.
I feel like one of our weddings said that you were their teacher.
There's a December 9th and a December 16th wedding. The December 9th one is actually the 3rd sibling in a family that I've done, the Hall family. I've done Michael Halls, I've done Kevin Halls, and now little sister Abby. I can remember when
cool.
each of them were in 8th grade science there.
Wow. So you are
So-
old.
Yeah, so it's getting there.
Next we'll be doing their grandbabies.
There's been a lot of students whose I've had them in class, and then I DJ'd their wedding, and now their students are in my class. So that's when I'm really starting to feel old.
Right.
But pet peeves, as far as like at a wedding,
In general, doesn't have to be a wedding. Just with the
okay.
pet peeve.
Okay, so here's my biggest one, and my kids and my wife also know this. When people are in the passing lane and they're not passing,
Yep.
and it's usually not a Pennsylvania plate, it's usually a New York or a New Jersey plate.
No
But you're in the
offense to our
passing
neighbors.
you're in the passing lane to pass. You cannot just cruise in there. I mean, come on.
So what do? You tailgate 'em?
Um,
I tailgate 'em.
especially, I would say I tailgate them for about 10 seconds to see if they get the hint to get over, and if not, then I'll get back in the regular lane, go by them, give a nice little look over.
You don't give them the finger.
No,
You
no,
make the cat give them the finger.
no, that's just rude. But no, I will get there, and then depending on how rude they were to me, I will get in front of them in the passing lane, put on my windshield washer fluid.
Oh, I hate that.
and
That's
then
a
take-
pet
then
peeve of
take off.
mine. Someone
So-
who does that in front of me. Why do they do that in front of
Shouldn't be in
you?
the passing lane.
No. Anywhere in general. When there's
Yeah.
a car behind you and you're driving and you do that.
Sometimes, I mean, if somebody's riding my bumper and there's absolutely nothing I can do about it, like there's somebody in front of me and they're still riding my bumper, that's when I'll put the windshield washer fluid on.
Maybe that's why it happens
Yeah.
to me so.
I don't like my bumper ridden there. It's
That might be it. All
Yeah.
right.
What did you want to be growing up? I wanted to be a Spanish teacher.
Hmm.
So my Spanish teacher, I went to Muncie, class of '89. My Spanish teacher was awesome. Like she would climb up on desks and just start like she was probably about 60, 65 years old, but she was really wacky and insane. And it's just like, oh my gosh, how can you be that much fun and still be a teacher? And I thought that's awesome. So I wanted to be a Spanish teacher. So I went to Bloom, and for a year and a half, I was a major as a Spanish ed major until it got to the point where I think it was Spanish conversation in daily life. And to this day, I can still read Spanish language, I can speak Spanish language, but I can't listen to two people having a conversation in Spanish and pick it up that quickly. Like if I'm watching a movie that has English subtitles written in Spanish, or that with the dialogue in Spanish, I could not understand that without the subtitles. To me, it sounds so fast. Like if somebody were a English second language student and they were listening to us having a conversation right there, I wouldn't be able to translate that conversation if we were doing it in Spanish. I just couldn't do it. There's too many dialects. There's too much jargon in there in just about every language. So to be able to understand a language that fluently, I didn't think I would ever get to that point. So that's when I transitioned to science teacher there.
Hmm.
Since then, my dream of playing in the NBA was shot down a long time before then. So
Yeah.
it just went to teaching.
So now you're ref though.
I ref, yeah. So
Do you like that?
oh my god, it is great.
Yeah.
There's a
Do you
lot.
get yelled at a lot?
You think?
Like from people. I mean,
Yeah, it does happen a lot. So right back to what I told you about communication. If you make a bad call, and let's face it, we're going to make bad calls. If you communicate it effectively, coach, this might not be the way you saw it, but this is what I saw from my angle, and this is what I call it. And my students asked me, were you upset when that referee called the holding penalty on the Eagles? I'm like, no, he held. That's what the call was. They did some other stuff that lost in the game earlier. So in the course of a basketball game, I'm going to make some bad calls on your team, and I'm going to make some bad calls for their team. And in the end, they more or less even out there. But if you're honest with the players, hey, if you got smacked on the wrist there, like you said you did, I just missed it. I'll try to be better on the next time down there. And it happens. We'll see some things that we thought happened. That oh man, I wish I'd have held the whistle on that one. And same thing for DJing. Oh man, this song's really gonna slay the dance floor, and crickets. Man, all right, maybe I misread that one. I got to make up for it on this next one there. So when guests come up with requests, maybe we're doing a lot of late '90s and early 2000s hip hop, and then somebody comes up and they'll request something from Metallica. I'm like, it's a great song. I love jogging to it. It's a good workout song, but I just don't think that fits the vibe with what is currently packing the dance floor right now. So we'll put that as an emergency one there, and maybe we'll play it later.
did people request like really strange songs like that? Or there
The
like a Metallica song, or like if it is like the complete opposite of what the crowd is?
Well, one of the things I'll keep going back to communication. I like to ask the bride and groom, give me 20 songs that are must plays. What are some songs that you would be heartbroken if you didn't hear it throughout that night? And they could be songs like that you first heard when you guys got together, or songs that you and your girlfriends, always sang to when you went on your girls' retreats and all that. And then what are 20 songs that are play if possible? So you know what? These are songs that you think would really be a hit, but you're not going to be heartbroken if they weren't played. And then what are some songs that are do not plays? So if drunk Uncle Joe comes up to me in the fourth hour of the night and he says, "Hey, you got to play this. We play this at all our weddings.
Jethro Tull.
Yeah, you got to play some Skinner, man. Freebird would really kill right now." Like, no, actually, this is what they said: do not play Leonard Skinner, or do not play any country, or do not play any line dances, or Lady Gaga, whatever it is. I have that on there. Now, sometimes they'll put something on there that would be a success. A lot of times people say, don't play the Cupid Shuffle or the Cha-Cha because it's too overplayed. And inevitably, we'll get 5 or 6 guests that, hey, can you play the Cupid or the Cha-Cha? Sorry, the bride said do not play. Really? She really said that? Oh. And then 5 or 6 more people will ask for that song. And I'll say, well, a lot of people have asked for it. Go ask the bride and see what she says. And inevitably, the bride was like, yeah, go ahead. I didn't think anybody would ask for it. But yeah, if they want it, go ahead and play it. So, I mean, if it's going to make people on the dance floor happy, and that's going to pack the dance floor, that's ultimately going to make the bride and groom, happier too.
Yeah.
But ultimately, wherever the bride and groom are, that's where everybody else is going to be. If they're at your bar, you're going to have a lot of people at the bar. If they're outside by the fire pit doing s'mores, you're going to have a really popular s'mores pit. But if they're on the dance floor, even if I'm playing Copacabana, shout out to Barry Manilow, if the bride and groom are dancing to that song, that's the best song to be played right now, because all the paparazzi is going to be out there with them. They're like, okay, I don't know why I'm here, but the bride and groom are there, so it must be a great song, so let's do it. So whatever makes the bride and groom happy, whatever gets them out on the dance floor, that's what I'm going to do. I don't even know what the question was originally here.
I don't either.
What did you want to be growing What did you want to be growing up? I don't know how we got to that.
See, that's how these go so long. It's just fun talking.
What is one thing you should never say at a wedding? As a DJ or a guest?
In general.
Wow. I'm trying to think, because one of the things I tell the brides is that I've never been a radio DJ. So I'm never going to be that person that says, hey, this was number 1 on the charts for 5 straight weeks from the Michael Jackson Thriller album. Here's, beat it. I'm never going to be that person on there. So I try to minimize what I say on the microphone. So before I say that the bride and groom are ready to be introduced, I'm going to check with you. I'm going to check with the photographer, make sure they're actually in the room before we start the father of the bride dance. Is the father upstairs? Is he having a smoke break? Did the bride bustle her dress yet? So I don't want to say if there's some things that I should never say, but are there some things that I should check on before I actually say them? Like, I'm not going to say that we're done in about 15 minutes before I check with the bride and groom to see if they want to extend overtime, before I check with you to see, hey, how long do they have this place till? So I don't know if there's anything that I would say that I would never say, but there's things that I would definitely check with people before I say them. Before I say something about a dance with the father of the bride dance or the mother of the groom dance, are they on speaking terms? Is the mother of the bride even here, or is it stepmother of the bride? Before I talk about these at our meeting with the bride and groom, is there a special circumstance that I know about? Did the grandfather pass away? Is there a song that I shouldn't play because that's a song that meant something to the previous person that she was dating? The whole reason I have this do not play list, I might have even told you before. I was at a wedding maybe about 15 years ago, and somebody came up to me and requested Jesse's Girl, Rick Springfield. It's like his, one-hit wonder there. So I thought, yeah, Jesse's Girl is a popular 80s song, so I started playing Jesse's Girl. All of a sudden, the maid of honor ran up to me. You gotta stop the song. You gotta stop the song. You can't play the song. I'm like, no, somebody just requested it. It's filling the dance floor. No, but the bride used to be engaged to somebody named Jesse. You can't play the song anymore. You gotta change the song. Whatever it is, you gotta change it. I'm like, that's something I probably should have known ahead of time. But I didn't have a do not play list at that point. And I'm not sure.
Requested that.
Yeah.
That was
So I don't know if somebody might have requested that just to play a joke on the bride, but yeah, I found out the hard way. Make sure you have a do not play list for that reason.
Wow.
So that's something, not that I should not say, but that I should not play.
I picked these out just for you.
If you were in a circus, what character would you be? Oh, I would be the ringleader.
No, that's my position.
I'm definitely not a performer. I don't lead the cha-cha on the dance floor. I'm not leading people around the floor. I don't do the cha-cha slide with the people. but I will lead them in introductions. I will make sure they're there. Probably one of my most fun introductions was at the barn at Greystone Farm. Did you ever see the movie or hear the movie, The Greatest Showman?
Yeah.
Okay, so the movie starts on, whoa, ladies and gentlemen, this is the moment you, and that's what they wanted to be introduced to. So they have these big barn doors, and I press play. I ran over there, right as the song goes, whoa, I slam the barn doors open. They swing out, and there's the bridal party right there. So I get on the mic. This is the moment you've been waiting for. And then I introduced the bridal party, and there were two grooms. I introduced both grooms to that song there, and it was probably the most fun I had because I actually felt like I was in the movie at that
Oh,
part.
that's so cool.
So I would definitely be the ringleader because I can't perform. I'm definitely not going to be putting my head inside the lion's jaw there. I can't juggle. I'm not good balancing on a trapeze or anything like that. I can't do somersaults or anything like that. So I would definitely be the announcer or the ringleader, but no stunts or anything like that. That's definitely not something I could do. What
We
would
had a wedding, the ringleader.
Oh, you would be the
For
ringleader too?
sure,
Okay.
of course I would.
So you
Why would you
Barnum
question
and
that?
Bailey. Okay.
Yeah. We had a wedding come into that also. So there's curtains up there in the alcove area.
Yeah.
They had closed them, and then we opened them, and they went out to that, and all of the guests were on the dance floor.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
And they came out and did a choreographed dance to it, the bride and groom. It was
And don't you think like
crazy.
the intro just it sets the vibe.
Oh my gosh.
Like if you have a really laid back, like if somebody were to come into Louis Armstrong's "What a Wonderful," I mean that's really subdued, and
Yeah.
you're like, okay, it's a beautiful song, but it lets you know that this isn't going to be a party atmosphere.
Yeah.
But when you come out to like Greatest Showman or something by Pitbull, where it's like high energy, you're saying, all right, this is where this party is going. This is going to be one hell of a shindig for the rest of the night because we just set the bar right up here right now, just from intros, and it's only going to go up from there. So I think
I'm sorry.
that intro, I think that is so important for guests to choose, for a bride and groom to choose something that they're going to vibe to, that it speaks to them, that they can get excited to, and that just lets their guests know, here we are, now it's time to
absolutely.
party.
I wish they would go back to intros though, of like the one song and everybody just being introduced,
One song for everybody.
and instead of like the stopping and like doing a shot and kneeling and throwing things, all that stuff.
Mhm.
Because they usually plan that on the fly.
Without a lot of thought and with a lot of alcohol already involved.
Yes, doesn't usually go as planned. A lot of falls.
So I offer a couple different styles of introduction. So one guy, he's a teacher at Hughesville, Nick Tagliaferri. He's a referee now too. His was the first wedding that I did this. It was almost like the dating game show where you read a little biography from this bridesmaid, read a little something about this groomsman.
I feel like you did that here.
Yeah, and then they come in together. So here we have Becky Yeagle. Becky is a 1988 graduate of South Williamsport Mountie. She enjoys long walks on the beach and a good book to read while she's sipping some peach schnapps. She's being escorted by Joe Smith. Joe is a best friend of the groom, having gone to college with him, and the best thing he can remember about him was the night that nobody will forget. Please help me welcome Becky Yeagle and Joe Smith.
Yeah, I like that.
So and they have a song that's just to them. So it kind of lets the guests know, okay, I never knew Becky or Joe before, but now I know a little bit about how they know the bride and groom and what they meant to them.
Yeah.
So it takes a little bit longer and it takes a little bit more thought on the bride and groom to come up with a little narrative for that. And a lot of couples will say, yeah, I think we'd like to go with that. But then time just gets away from them. And by the time they get to our meeting 2 weeks beforehand, they're like, you know what, we just never had enough time to do it. And now let's just go with the one song for everybody and worry about some other stuff there. So it does take some attention and some thought, but it really goes off well because like I said, it gets to tell a story and it lets each of those members of the bridesmaids and groomsmen know, wow, they remember that really stuck with them.
Makes them feel special.
Yeah, it really does.
I like that.
What's one food you could eat for the rest of your life? Well, McKenna would say your smashed potatoes.
I knew that's what you were going to say. Yeah, McKenna loves our crispy red potatoes.
Oh my
That's all
gosh.
she needs.
It's like a little baked potato, but it's smashed down there with some coarse grain salt on top. She would just seconds and thirds. Like,
we serve them on our lunch menu
yeah,
here.
she wouldn't even have to have a meat, and that would be her vegetable. She would just go for that every time.
Yeah.
But for me, I would say chicken parm is really good for me. If I
Mm.
had to eat one thing for the rest of my life, it'd be chicken parm. You got your meat, you got your dairy from the cheese, you got kind of your vegetable from the tomato sauce there.
Okay.
Um, if you put some any kind of pasta on the side there, you got your carbs. So yeah, I would have to say chicken parm.
Favorite place in town to get that?
Wow, that's a tough one. I've actually never had it at DeSalvo's, and when I think of like Italian food, I would say
Mm,
DeSalvo's.
right.
Surprisingly, Domino's has has a really good chicken parm sandwich. One of those like $5.99 sandwich treats. It's actually pretty decent.
All right. Next question.
Do you guys? I don't think I've ever had chicken parm here. Do you guys have
Oh
it?
my gosh. Yeah, it's on our plated menu for weddings.
Nobody. I have. I don't think
You
I've
haven't had
ever
a
had a
wedding that
chicken
they
parm
had?
here.
Yeah.
It's always something from the carving station there.
Yeah.
I'll have to. Next time you guys book somebody with a chicken parm, kind of slide my card there for the wedding DJ. Then it's like, yeah, he's only here for the chicken parm, but
I'll call you.
how long can you go without checking your phone? Tammy, do you want to answer that for me? Um, she says if she texts me and I don't respond back in 5 minutes, she thinks something's wrong. Um, I mean, let's face it, we're in that day and age where everybody has a cell phone. So we're going back to that communication. I've heard horror stories of couples saying they haven't heard from their photographer or their DJ for weeks. Like they'll email them, they'll text them, they'll leave voicemails, which nobody does anymore. But they just can't get a return message from them. And it might be like before they signed a contract with them or even after. So like we had a contract with this guy, but we can't get a hold of him. Like how does that even
How
happen?
does that happen?
I honestly don't know. I mean, because we have text, we have Facebook, we have Instagram DMs, we have text messaging. Not saying that you have to answer them within the hour, but we're in the day and age where you should be able to get a timely response. So it all goes back to communication. If somebody wants to get a hold of me, they should know that I'm probably going to get back to them within the hour. I might not have the answer they're looking for, but I'm going to get back to them. Um, the if a couple texts me, during school, I might say, you know what, let me think about that and get back to you during my lunch break, or I have some more time to think about that, or let me check with other people first before I see if they're available before I commit to this. But there's really no reason why you can't get back to somebody in time. To me, it's just common courtesy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just good manners. Um, you and I were really good with the keyboards and the texting there. Hey, how early can I get in this Sunday? Like you said, oh, you can get at 10 o'clock, but I have a showing at 11:30. So if you want to stick around for that, feel free to. So to me, if you can pick up a phone and text, why not just say, hey, thanks for your text. Let me think about that. I'm kind of in the middle of something right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
If you could only store, where do you come up with
I
these?
know. They're
If
fun.
you could only store one type of food in your pocket, what would you carry, and why would it be beef jerky? I just added that last part because beef jerky just lasts forever. I don't know if that's good for your body or not, but it's sustainable. Beef jerky and gummy bears.
Oh, gummy bears.
When I go for like I go on one bike ride each year. That's really long. It's like a 4 hour ride, the rails to trails there, up in Waterville. And I always want to make sure I have some type of quick glucose thing like gummy bears, but I also want something that's a little more sustainable, like beef jerky. So neither of them need refrigerated. You can eat them cold. You can eat them hot. So yeah, if I'm in a pinch, I would say you have to have gummy bears and beef jerky.
Have
So
you had our beef jerky?
no, you guys do beef jerky too?
Yeah.
I just did.
We make it as wedding favors.
You can ask George emailed me there when you guys sent out that
Oh,
Facebook
yeah.
post about the Super Bowl stuff. I had I'm a Philly Eagles guy, so you guys had the brisket Philly cheesesteak package and the package of like soft pretzel nuggets. McKenna and I were like, oh my gosh, every wedding we go to here, they either have the soft pretzels for the appetizer or late night snack, and it's everything. Is it some kind of beer cheese?
Mm-hmm.
With beer cheese to dip it in. So between that and the 3 pounds of beef brisket, we were totally. I wish the Super Bowl had ended differently, but the food was not the reason that it wasn't a success. It
Well, I'm
was
glad
that
you
was good
enjoyed that.
stuff. If you could go back in time to a point in history, where would you visit? Um, I'm a JFK assassination buff.
Yeah.
So my daughter visited some of her Dungeons and Dragons friends this last summer, and they live in Dallas. So I said, well, we have to go to the JFK assassination site. So it was almost like standing in history. 'Cause, I mean,
Yeah.
I stood on the X, but they have it marked on the road where each shot hit the limousine, where they hit President Kennedy there. We toured the Texas School Book Depository. They have it like thick bulletproof glass where the shots actually came from, supposedly came from there. Like walking through just all the areas of history, the picket fence, the grassy knoll, the staircase that he had to run down to escape the school book depository. Oh my gosh, it was just so
That's
weird. So
amazing.
if I could go back there and just like, somehow maybe not have an open limousine while you're there, just man, just he's up there in the window. Look, turn
Where
there.
is he?
Yeah, close the window. Get over there. To me, I thought that. I mean, I wasn't born for 8 years later, but to me, like he was doing so much good for the country there, and if we could just get him a little more time to finish what he started, I think it would have done a lot of good.
Well, we might want to wrap this up because we're at 46 minutes.
Yeah, we passed the 10-15 minute mark a while ago.
Time flies. I told you it's fun, right? You can talk forever. I'll save these for the next time you visit for your next wedding. Thanks for coming.
Oh my gosh, this was fun.
Yeah.
I mean, we haven't had a wedding here since what, December? I think it was.
Yeah, I think you were our last one, weren't you?
That was my last one of the year too.
Yeah.
So 2 months since we got to talk shop here.
Yeah. So we'll see you soon in the spring when things get rolling.
April or May, most likely.
Yep. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. We'll see you soon.